Guys. Okay. Hey, I am Brandon Weichert. Great to be here, filling in for Mario. I am Luigi de Mario here. If we're doing the Mario Brothers, theme. Mario is preparing for another show, I think, right now. So I'm with Major General Randy Manor. He's retired U.S. Army general and a defense analyst. General, it is wonderful to have you here with us. Thanks for doing this.
And thank you for having me as well.
Yes, sir. Well, we've all been talking about Iran, but there's been some developments on the Ukrainian front, it looks like. And obviously, there is some degree of connection here because of the depletion of our arsenal. But it looks, my read on the situation is it looks like the Russians are slowly but surely moving their way now to the remaining fortress cities. What's going on that eastern front of the Ukraine war?
So I think this is an example of where uh, Russia, in addition to many other countries who are watching the depletion of the U.S. arsenal for both defensive and offensive precision weaponry, they're seeing opportunity to stretch out and to, quite frankly, be a little bit more bold. And that is what the Russians are doing. I think that it is a very fair assumption that the U.S., in terms of because we are so depleted, we are going to see a lot of those weapons come off the assembly line and stay in the U.S. inventory and not be moved elsewhere. If you recall, although this was more political than anything, it was not about military. Whenever Vice President Vance went to China or to that part of the world and basically said, "Oh, those F-35s that Taiwan wants? Yeah, not so much. And those missiles that Japan wants that they've already paid for? We're going to put a hold on the deliveries." That was 100% political because, of course, we're screwing our allies left and right.
Was it political though? I mean, it seems like we're going to need. I mean, General, and forgive me, I can never say his name. The guy in charge of UCOM, the Gernowich or Gernovich. He said, over the weekend that he doesn't have enough naval assets. He has to pick between defending Israeli airspace or defending the U.S. homeland, which I thought was a stunning statement. So is the vice president wrong necessarily when he says we're going to have to hold off?
So it is only by default that he is not right. Think about when that happened. That was a long time ago. And at that time, the Secretary of Defense, the president were saying, "My God, we got all these munitions. Don't worry about it. We're good to go." What it was all about at that time was cozying up to the Chinese and basically saying, "Oh, yeah, no problem. We have no problem not delivering these weapons." Remember, F-35s should be able to deliver F-35s. Okay, so I will tell you that at the time, while now it seems like a good call, that's crap because it wasn't. It was a political decision to pacify China. Because remember, who are the three greatest allies of the president in order? Israel, then Russia, then China. Those are the three biggest allies of the president. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. In contrast, go ahead.
So you're saying that the president is, what are you saying, officially aligned with Russia and China, or just sort of emotionally?
He's easily manipulated by their style because they are brilliant. They're brilliant, not only brilliant statesmen, they are brilliant in dealing with different personalities. Remember, the Russian president, he was the head of the KGB, and he came up through the ranks. This guy is in.
Well, he wasn't the head of the KGB, though. I mean, he was a counterintelligence guy in Dresden, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Yes, but he went up through the ranks.
Yeah.
Super capable person about manipulating people.
No doubt. Yep.
And so what I meant was not an official policy, and I did not mean to imply that. I meant the fact that he, quite frankly, he has been very friendly to them compared to, quite bluntly, many of our traditional allies, whether that's Japan or Korea or uh, uh, most of Europe, as well as, of course, our prior allies in the Middle East, other than Saudi Arabia, by the way. Sorry, Saudi Arabia is on the list too because of all the billions of dollars they give his family.
Well, there's no doubt the level of, shall we say, corruption or questionable, dealings. There's no doubt
Yeah.
that there's a lot of influence there. I've been very critical of this,
By the way, history
but
will
yeah,
show.
yeah.
Right now, we have people that don't believe anything that's with facts, but the reality is history will prove it over
Oh
time.
no! Listen, whatever they accuse the government of doing is they make that look like pikers. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. But I do want to get to one thing though because I remember Bridge Colby in 2022, and he was not in government at this point, but he was warning, hey, we've got some weaknesses in the arsenals. We might not want to start throwing everything at the kitchen, including the kitchen sink. So I understand what you say about it being a political statement by Vance a year or two ago.
Right.
It was a year ago, but
Yep.
There is some foresight there because now here we are. We're in this 5-6 month long war, and we've blown through an insane amount. I had Admiral Mark Montgomery on with me yesterday, and he even said he was very surprised by how fast we went through the Tomahawks, 50% of the arsenal.
Right. So I know Mark well. I used to work with him when I was with the Defense Threat Reduction Agency with nuclear weapons and planning.
Yeah, DTRAC.
When he was at UCOM. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So bottom line up front is that we have two problems. Mm-hmm. One, I fault the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who quite frankly is a retired 3-star Air Guard officer. He was absolutely qualified, honorable service as a 3-star. Absolutely not qualified to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs whatsoever, over 100 active and retired 4-star generals and admirals. The Secretary of Defense is the best buddy of the Chinese and of the Russians because what has he done? The Russians and the Chinese do not have to go out and kill or assassinate our best generals and admirals because the SecDef fires many of them based on their race and their gender. And it has happened. So we are being led in the military in many cases, not all cases, of course not, but in many cases, our young men and women are being led by the B team at the very top. And please understand, I am not saying everyone's the B team.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right. No, you're not. Look, I call him Pollyanna Pete. You're not going to get any pushback from me on Secretary of, whatever he's calling himself these days. But I will say, General Kane, it doesn't seem like in the war, at least, that he's been the problem. He's been warning the president the whole time about the complications if he does this. And the president, I think the problem is the president. He's not listening to anybody except Benjamin Netanyahu, who wants him to do this. So
I have sat in over 50 tank sessions, tank meaning the Pentagon with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and all of the 4-stars. I have sat in over 50 of them as a colonel, a 1-star and a 2-star. And I will tell you that we do not know all the behind the scenes activities and conversations that are ongoing. Right. And remember, the active duty military cannot speak up against the president. That is what got MacArthur in trouble with President Truman. It's a little bit indirect with General McChrystal because the reality was he just allowed some of his people to badmouth the president, not him personally. But the point is, they have to stay loyal to the chain of command while providing their best military advice. So the difficulty is, and again, I'm not questioning General Kane's character or his desire to do the right thing. Absolutely not. It's just the fact that there's some number of dozens of people more qualified to lead him. And the result is the president is not probably the SecDef for sure, because he doesn't know what he doesn't know. He's all worried about testosterone and doing push-ups and beards on African Americans, rather than the idea of what advice should he be providing to the president. So again, the civilian leadership has resulted in the Defense Department being rudderless, going into very, very rough waters. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the military leaders are trying to do the best they can under the conditions they're under. So I don't want to throw any rocks at any individuals.
Right. No, I got it. No.
That's not my intent.
Let me ask you though, because I've been very critical of the culture at CENTCOM. It's led by Emerald Cooper. I know that there's this kind of connection between Cooper on a personal level and Hegseth. And from what I've been told, Cooper's basically, his thoughts are being piped straight to the president by Hegseth. Is there any, do you have any problem with the way CENTCOM has conducted the war? Do you have any issue with, since you have an issue with General Kane, is there any issue with Emerald Cooper's leadership that you have?
I think it's important to say that I do not believe in the way the war has been conducted as directed by.
Neither do I. Yeah, neither do I. Yeah,
okay.
We're in agreement. Yeah.
The expenditure, first of all, no well-defined goals and objectives. So therefore, other than just firing missiles at things, what the hell is the indicator of success?
That's right.
The CENTCOM commander should be providing the best advice and counsel to be able to say, which apparently he has done more actively, that have leaked, where he said, hey, boss, what the hell are we firing all these missiles at? Because we haven't got any targets that are worth a $12.7 million missile.
Yeah.
So I have to be, I don't want to be critical. I also want to say, what the hell is going on? And we are now at a point where if someone wanted to do something in Taiwan, we'd be screwed. And also in Europe, the Russians are going to be more and more aggressive, in my opinion. Germany is the only saving grace in Europe. The problem is there's a little bit of a history there about Germany rearming. And so, however, Germany is going to do what Germany's got to do. And the problem is because of this president and this Secretary of Defense being warmongers for no reason, the reality is it's causing the U.S. to gear up production of weapons we don't need, quite frankly. I mean, we do need some of them, don't get me wrong. Because the problem is, since on what planet is it good to invest a $12.7 million defensive missile against a $100,000 drone?
Yeah.
The Ukrainians are the best in the world at this, and they are doing the best they can with counter drone technology, interceptors, as well as, of course, they are really doing great on the use of drones for the tactical and strategic implementation, literally on nickels and dimes.
Yeah.
So we need to learn, we need to rethink the way we're doing this, because just because we have the strongest military in the world does not mean that it's being used effectively. And that's the dilemma that we're in right now.
And in terms of, because this is a conversation I've been having quite a bit, is it time, given all of the issues with the management or with the depletion of our arsenal, and there's a concomitant problem with the defense industrial base, we can't replenish this stuff quickly. My last guest was Mark Cancian, and Mark of CSIS. Mark was saying, the next 4 to 5 years are going to be a window of vulnerability for the United States. So is it time then that we step back and rethink the overarching grand strategy that we've had since the end of the Cold War?
Absolutely.
And what would that look like?
Well, what it means is that we need to invest less in these large-scale weapons and look at what is the actual battlefield needs. We do need we need the interceptors, because with Russia and China, they have weapons that can penetrate our defenses, and we must have sufficient numbers of these $12.7 million weapons. On the other hand, we are totally misusing those because we don't have any other weapon systems to be able to engage effectively large numbers of smaller, very low-cost drones. We need to rethink this completely. So we've got to stop investing in these very large systems, and we've got to be more agile in developing new capabilities the way the Ukrainians have. I mean, those guys are awesome. By the way, the Germans are next on the list. They are also awesome, meaning because they are really rapidly developing capability. The French, not so much. The British are flat on their butt. I mean, that they've got nothing. They cannot even defend London because
Right. Well,
all.
they don't have a navy right now. I mean,
Oh
basically.
yeah, I mean,
Right.
they have virtually no air defense capability at all. It's actually rather pathetic.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just so I guess this gets us into sort of, I guess, a JD Vance worldview where I have to ask then, is it possible that we, because of these systemic issues, and I know there are some positive developments, but can Germany, for instance, scale what they're doing? Can we scale what we need to be doing? I'm very skeptical. That's my personal view. So should we be looking at sort of, at least for the next 5 years, sort of a Fortress Americas mentality where we reduce to focus on restoring our capabilities and then maybe we can go beyond that afterward?
So the answer is yes, because we do have to defend the United States first. At the same time, we have to be able to keep our partnerships and our trade routes open, because if we don't, they are going to be more susceptible to other nations saying, we got a deal for you. The Chinese are just laughing the whole way to the bank about moving across the Pacific. The difference between the Chinese and the Japanese during World War II, the Chinese are buying their way into the various islands instead of attacking the nations, and they are coming off as their friend. I read an article today that the U.S. State Department announced the intent to close, I think it was at least 6 more consulates around the world because they don't have the money. Because, of course, what happened? The president cut the State Department budget by so much because all he believes in are weapons, not talking, and not figuring out how to the other aspects of economic power that any and every nation have. So, yes, it probably means we're going to have to pull back out of necessity, not because, I mean, it's basically we are in a mess and the mess is getting worse. Relative to your other question, I hate to say this, but I completely believe the Germans are going to be able to scale, which it's a two-edged sword for Europe. Now, by the way, I think they're on the right side. The challenge is the French and the British are scared as crap, especially the French. I mean, no offense, but how many wars have been fought between France and Germany?
Right.
I mean, over the centuries.
Right.
So I respect the history. The reality is the Germans are going to be the way that are going. That's the mechanism to primarily help the Ukrainians right now. Oh, by the way, the Poles too.
Yeah, the poll, yes, yeah, and I've the not the last government, the right wing government before them. I did some consulting work with them. I knew some of their people, so I've always been a fan of Poland, but I'm concerned that given our, and I know we're running up on the time here, but given our limitations, shall we say, and also, by the way, our political problems, because you're highlighting, a very important thing. I think our political, and I think it's both parties, I think we have really bad leaders. And I just don't think they fully understand the complexity of the situation America finds itself in. So I think that's another issue. But um, is there any chance we can just stabilize things with the Russians, stabilize things with the Chinese, maybe even the Iranians, that would allow us to buy time to rebuild? Or do you think that basically this is it, and this is, if we don't make a stand here, the whole thing's shot?
When you say make a stand here,
Where we are supporting, we continue to expand support for NATO. We continue to encourage the Germans and the Poles to do more. That takes time, though. I mean, it's easy for us to say do more, but I mean, again, I keep going back to this 4 to 5 year window of vulnerability.
right?
What our enemies know this too. What do
Yeah.
we do to dissuade them from exploiting that window of vulnerability?
So we have to remember that the next war of substance with the Chinese will not involve a large numbers of munitions. It's more likely that they would use cyber to bring down communications, to bring down gas pipelines, to bring down electrical grids, because all of these things are very doable. And because that I was the deputy and acting director for DITRA, This is not classified. They can do it, and they're not, because it will harm them as well. The reality is we're preparing for the wrong kind of war with all the armaments we're getting. I also need to pause just for a second, because I want to be very clear to all the viewers right now that all the things we're talking about is about the civilian leadership, with the fact that they don't understand the challenge, and they are providing, it's essentially a rudderless ship for the Defense Department. Our military, our men and women, they are still the most capable fighting force in the world. They are displaying extraordinary professionalism, courage, commitment to the cause under extremely difficult circumstances, as well as their families. So I want you to know, and everyone there that is listening to me, our men and women in uniform and their families, they are awesome, and they deserve better leadership. At the top of the military, they need the A team, and then more importantly, they need the A team as far as our civilian leadership. So America's military strength, it's never been based purely on the courage of the military. That's not it. Remember, it requires preparation, logistics, maintenance, strategic foresight. It requires partnerships. It is the whole of government. It's not about just those young men and the women in the bases in America and around the world. And we have to remember, it is the nation, not just those young men and women, which I just, I was in for 36 years. My son was in the Air Force. My dad was career Army. My son was career Air Force, search and rescue. My grandfather, World War II. I'm all in for these young men and women.
Well, yeah, and I am too. I consult with the military. I come from a military family, so yeah, I know. I'm with you. Let me ask you real quick, and maybe this is too personal. I don't know. I saw the casket of the young man who was killed in Jordan. I think it was his wife, mourning over him. I was very angry.
Yeah.
I personally, I blame Trump for this.
Yes, I do too.
Okay.
Honestly,
Because
I blame him for every single death of an American soldier, and for every single one of the hundreds of wounded. We did not need to do this just for him to cozy up to the ego and the persuasive ability of the Israeli prime minister. This is 100. This is the blood. Their blood is on his hands.
I couldn't agree more. And I say this, by the way, as somebody who voted for him, and I'm disgusted. It's a horrific thing. So, in our last couple minutes, I want to find out, where is China going to win this race? I mean, it looks like they're the ones benefiting from everything that's happened. Really, going back even to Venezuela. I mean, they're still doing business in Latin America. They have some major ports in Latin. They just won this Panama Canal thing. I don't know if you saw that. Yes. So, I mean, they don't even. It's sort of the meme. Xi does nothing and still wins. How do we stop this from happening? Because it looks like we might have reached the point of no return. Like, this is the Chinese order now.
This is a long distance race. The Chinese are continuing to gain momentum, and the United States on the world stage is losing momentum. They have not yet overcome us, but they will. And by the way, the next 2 years will be critical, because we have this situation going on with this administration. Unless the House and Senate switch to keep the president and the entire cabinet totally occupied with investigations, this is not going to change, and we are going to fall further and further behind for this great statement that says, make America great again. All it means is make Trump and his family and the oligarchs in the United States richer. That's all that's happening. Every single American family is paying hundreds of dollars a month more for gasoline and food and medical expenses than they did literally 6 months ago. And it's going to show up that way in November, unless, of course, he deploys the National Guard against the.
How likely do you think that is, though? How likely?
I think it's pretty darn likely.
I think it's more like, yeah, my personal view is it's more likely he runs for president again before he does that.
No, I think, look, there are already plans being made already that I know of about deploying the National Guard, quote unquote, to provide security in various states. They're already planning it.
I
Now,
believe that.
notice the way I phrased it.
Yeah.
The planning is underway right now. Not the execution, but the planning.
Is this the end of the republic then?
No, absolutely not. We will persevere. All this crap is going to be a huge black eye on the history of the United States, the way that we have other black eyes in our nation's history. But the values of the American people and why so many people, 98% of us are immigrants in this country. 98%. I mean, it doesn't mean you immigrated today or yesterday, right. But your parents, grandparents, great grandparents, somewhere, 98% of us, less than 2%, are people who were born in this country, hundreds of years ago. So we got to get over this, and we will. And we're going to stand up for treating each other with dignity and respect the way that it should be.
And this will be my last question. And again, I apologize to the audience. I'm kind of going off topic here, but I'm fascinated by this. And by the way, in 2021, I sat in on a very interesting meeting between two generals. I'm not going to get into here. We can talk offline maybe, but about an executive order for disarming Americans. And that was an interesting debate that they had, or proposed executive order. But if the president were to order National Guard to secure the elections, do you think the military would go along with this, or is there going to be a break there, a rupture in the military?
Remember that the National Guards are in state under Title 32. They're under state control, so the governors could do it. I will tell you, having dealt with not the present adjutants general in all 54 states and territories in the district, I have dealt with their predecessors, and there are many, many states where they will do exactly what their governor says without shooting Americans.
Okay. I mean, we're in a constitutional crisis then.
Yes, we are. We are. That's how dangerous the situation is within the United States, let alone the defense of the United States around the world. All the MAGA people don't understand it. And the reality is they're ignorant.
To be fair, it sounds like half the MAGA people are not on board with what's going on right now. It does sound like there's a contingent.
I hope so.
I mean, at least people that I run, Tucker Carlson and those guys sound like they're not on board with this, and they were MAGA at one time. So
that's fair. That's very fair.
So
I withdraw that comment.